Welcome to OMCI's Writers Night. I am your host, Braden Folks, and we have an excellent lineup of OMCI's emerging artists, singer-songwriters in their own right, all different styles, amazing artists. We have Lucius Graycliffe, Ella Baker, and Emily Gilbart. Welcome, guys. Awesome to see you. For this evening's Writers Night, we're just going to go over some, songwriting, getting in how you got into songwriting, how you found out about it, that you can do it, where you get your inspiration, tons of stuff. So if you're a viewer and you want to get into songwriting but haven't, or you are, but want to learn some more tips, this is the show for you. So we're going to dive right in. And I guess it's kind of important to build this tower of learning with how you guys got into songwriting. And songwriting is definitely not something everybody can do. I mean, it's like painting a picture or building a building or something like that, or doing a stand-up show. Not everybody can do it. So I'm interested to know how you guys found out you can do it and when it kind of really happened. And maybe Ella, we'll start with you.
For me, I've kind of always had songwriting as a part of my life. Being a little kid, running around just singing the things I'm doing, like I'm brushing my teeth, that kind of stuff. The first time I really wrote a song, I think I was 8 years old, and I performed it in my school talent show, and people were saying, "Oh, that's so great!" And as a little kid, I wrote a bunch of fun little happy songs like that. But I didn't seriously start songwriting as a musician until grade 9 in high school. And grade 9 in high school, you have so many new emotions happening and going on, so many new things in your life. And I think that's really where I started songwriting, just having so much going on and not knowing where else to put it. And I decided on songwriting. So that was definitely my start. To the solid start was when I was in the ninth grade and just needed an outlet for all of the feelings I had.
Yeah, cool. Lucius, what about you? When did you find out you can write songs?
So I actually didn't know I could start writing songs until I was about 15 years old, or maybe four. I can't remember. It's all foggy from here. I have an old man brain. But more or less, I was a huge fan of Nirvana, and I'm sure everyone here and who's watching knows the band Nirvana, because they're praised for their songwriting and their super crazy sound that they had that totally took over the 90s. And I used to play exclusively Nirvana song and Foo Fighters songs. Those are the two bands that I used to play music from, and I wanted so bad to be like Dave Grohl, so I would try to write songs like Dave Grohl, and I just couldn't do it for some reason. It just didn't come out until eventually one day, I was so distraught because I just couldn't have something original come out of me. And I remember it was like 3 o'clock in the morning in the middle of summer. It was like in August 2015. And I just started playing random chords. And I played an E minor 7. Um, and when I played that, I don't know why, just this, it almost like it came into my head like someone was speaking to me. And I put the words that came to me uh, onto an actual sheet of paper, and I started playing around with those chords, and I ended up writing a song in like 15 minutes. And it was the most euphoric experience I ever had because it was so alien to the fact that I don't know, I always believed I'd never actually be able to write a song until that night. So since then I've just been banging out music every single time I possibly could. It's one of the best feelings in the world, completing a song. That's probably about when I started.
Yeah, that's really cool that you have that specific memory of that one song, because I'm sure for some songwriters it can be a jumble of different songs that you're working on that all get mixed up in the air and you kind of forget about the one specific thing. But that's cool that you remember the specific one. And Emily, how about you? How did you kind of get into your songwriting?
Well, mine was kind of kind of a mix between Lucius's and Ella's. Lucius, that's a very like powerful story. That's awesome. But yeah, I do have a memory of the first specific song that I wrote. It wasn't quite as like crazy awesome as as Lucius's memory, but yeah, it was like I think grade 8 right at the end. And I used to live in Alberta. Now I live in Ontario, but we had to move for my dad's work, and of course, moving going into grade 9, I was not pleased with it, and I was upset having to leave all my friends behind and stuff. So as like an angsty 13-year-old who was obsessed with like Ed Sheeran, Taylor Swift, whatever at the time, I had like played guitar before and sang, but I had never written my own songs. And then I sat down and I actually did, and I specifically remember the song I wrote because I played it for my parents, and they're like, "Oh my God, this is so good!" Whatever like parents do when they when their kid does anything. And then after that, I was like, "Okay, now I can write songs, so I'm gonna have to like keep trying." And then I wrote a few terrible songs after that that didn't measure up to the first one, and I just kept going with it because I loved it.
Yeah, it's definitely sometimes a work in progress when it comes to songwriting. That one hit, unless you're Lucius, doesn't just come out right away. But yeah, that's really interesting. And so you kind of got to find a vibe to fit your songwriting into. And Lucius went into that pretty well. Like you loved Foo Fighters, Nirvana, that kind of loud, growly kind of rock and roll. Yeah, exactly. And so Ella, like, what kind of genre did you find you had to really channel your songwriting into, or who inspired you to write the way you did?
I think I can definitely give that credit to my dad. My dad's a folk musician. He's been in lots of folk festivals and things, so I was surrounded by a lot of that music growing up. So I consider myself kind of indie folk with a little bit of pop thrown in there. I consider that my genre, which is maybe a little bit broader than some people would say. I think my stuff does fit in a lot of places, but I said that I think folk would be the umbrella genre for all of my stuff. So yeah, I was definitely hearing my all of my dad's music growing up, and that kind of got drilled into my head, and that was kind of the path I took with my music as well.
That's so cool. Parents have to have an element to musical
Yes,
skill.
definitely,
It has to
definitely.
come from somewhere. It just doesn't appear out of nowhere. Even maybe if it's not your parents, maybe your grandparents, somewhere down the line, there's a music gene. There has to be.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
maybe now's a good time to jump into some of the songs. Is there like an earlier composition that you can think of that you want to play that kind of maybe is inspired by your dad's music?
You know what? I think that this first song I'm gonna play is my dad helped me. This was the first song that I ever kind of released, and he helped me produce it and edit it a whole lot. And we were working on it a lot together, and we worked on the sound a lot together. So I brought this song to him, and I said, what do you think of this?" And the first time I played for him, I was kind of new at guitar when I wrote this song, and my fingers were all plucking the wrong strings and everything. And he saw the song for what I wanted it to be, even though I wasn't playing it exactly how I wanted it to sound. So, and then he really helped me get the song to where it is today. Um, so this song I'm going to play for you is called "Broken Pieces," and it's a really important song to me because just it being one of my first songs that really became something. And it's definitely about having a need to fix and a need to change and a need for something different in your life. So this is Broken Pieces. I hope you like it. Pardon me. Framed ghosts hung on my wall. Cherished promises seem to dissolve. Only the ghost to catch me if I fall. Hold my breath and count to 10. I won't let it be the end. When I open my eyes, you'll be here again to pick up these broken pieces we can make it last. So help me pick up these broken pieces, the broken pieces from our past.
Gorgeous tune.
Thank
Really
you.
nice.
Thank you.
So I noticed you fingerpicked your guitar for this song, and I don't know. I find that might be the uncommon route for early songwriters, where strumming the chord would be much easier to get the song
Definitely.
out, But you went with the more difficult option and fingerpicking it. Is there any reason you wanted to do that? Is that what you heard in your head, or is that just the way you like to play?
Honestly, like vast majority of the songs I feel like probably like 95% are strumming songs. This song, I was just playing around on the guitar. The first song I learned on the guitar was "Hey There, Delilah," and that one's a little picking one, and it's a pretty simple picking pattern. And then I started playing around with the notes and trying to put them in like a different order, and then I came up with that little thing, that little trill
Mhm.
thing, and I decided that that was something really cool, and I wanted to do something with that. So I played that over and over and over again until I found some chords that went well together with that picking pattern. So yeah, it's definitely more unique than my other songs in the way that I picked that one. I feel like the songs I like more happen to be the picking ones, just because once you can do them, they sound so nice and so pretty,
Yeah.
and they're quiet, and they're mellow, and I really like those ones when I can figure them out when I write them that way. So it definitely is trickier than strumming, but the result is great.
Yeah, absolutely. So Lucius, we went over that you get your inspiration from rock and roll,
Oh yeah.
specifically Nirvana, 90s kind of um, rock and roll. And Dave Grohl obviously was the drummer for Nirvana,
Yes, sir.
but then went his own way. Who do you get from lyrically more, Dave Grohl
So
or Kurt Cobain?
back in the day, so my music, my music, I want to say sound has changed a lot throughout the years. But back in the day when I did used to write stuff like that, definitely the lyrical content was totally inspired by Kurt Cobain, because he had just such this weird way of wording things. And I remember specifically hearing about the fact that he wrote his songs purposefully nonsensical, so that way he could get the audience to sort of get their own weird little meaning. And that meant a lot to me, funny enough, even though that it means nothing to him. um, yeah, no, I definitely think that that was probably the biggest lyrical inspiration for me, because a lot of my old music, like the music I'm going to be playing tonight, very much indeed entails that sort of nonsensical, but it's almost like it's just it makes just enough sense to not make sense, is basically how I can explain his way of writing. And I really really love that form of writing, because it's like looking at a painting on a wall. You know what I mean? Everyone's going to see the same painting, but not everyone's going to pick up the same thing every single time they look at it. And I really really like that way of writing. That's my favorite way to write.
Awesome. So let's see what we'll pick up from your writing. Give
Yes.
us a spin.
So, actually, because we talked about it, I was gonna play the that first song I ever wrote. It's really
Yeah,
depressing, so be prepared to cry. I'm
they
joking.
usually
It's
are.
yeah, coming from me. Yeah, yeah. So the song is called Tommy, and I wrote this in 2015. It definitely sounds like someone's first song, so take it with a grain of salt, folks. Tommy, sweet little boy. Tommy, you're no one's toy. wake up straight out of bed, looking in the mirror, feeling dead. When you say you're okay, I know you lied. When you say you tried. Tommy, didn't mean to make you cry. Tommy, all you ever did was lie to him. Tommy, no, you never ever tried to save him. Tommy really didn't have to die. Yeah. Tommy didn't mean to make you cry. No, Tommy, all you ever did was lie to him. Tommy, no, you never really tried to save him. Tommy, all you did was try to lie.
Cool.
Thank you.
Really, really cool. Yeah. That definitely gives me vibes of the 90s. There's no
Definitely,
question. Yeah, and really cool how you mix the finger picking with the strumming in
Thank you
different
very much.
different areas to kind of give it different vibes.
Mm.
And quiet vocals at the start, build it up and get all intense at the end.
Crescendo. It's
Yeah.
definitely like a first song kind of song, like you know it's someone's first song when you hear it. But I don't know. I thought there's
Ah,
just a certain I have it somewhere special in my heart just because it's the first song I ever wrote. So
yeah.
you know what I
No,
mean.
really great track. Really good tune.
Definitely. Thank you very much.
Emily, how about you? What kind of inspo and vibe do you put your songwriting into?
Um, I definitely am similar to Ella, I think a little bit. Like I would consider myself to be indie folk kind of, but I definitely fit in with like a variety of genres. I call it like I was trying to describe it and my mom was like, "Why don't you call it folk fusion?" I'm like, "It kind of is like that. Like it's like a bunch of different genres fused together." So definitely like indie folk, but with some elements of blues and almost like old country because I'm not a big country music fan, but I definitely I think that a lot of times the way that people write, like a lot of times it's like what kind of comes in comes out, you know what I mean? Like with
Mm-hmm.
Lucius listening to all that kind of music, like you definitely hear that in his songwriting. And for me, like I definitely listened to that type of music as a kid. Living in Alberta, I listened to a lot of country and folk type stuff, so I think that kind of comes out in my writing.
Definitely. Well, I would definitely listen to a folk fusion playlist on Spotify. There's no question. So let's hear a folk fusion tune by you.
Sure. All right. Um, Going with, I guess, with the sort of earlier song theme. Not a super early one, but definitely some of the first music I ever released. This one's pretty folky. It's kind of a bit of a storytelling one, and it's called Long Gone. Hopped on a train, thought saying goodbye. knows it, but you're already gone. Sit in a boxcar with your feet hanging out, probably thinking about eating something in the next town. The pines, they've been whispering. Can you hear them? Are you listening? Sounds like something about Jesus and all you've done. The wind blows you northwards, the river flows west. You'll follow the current wherever it takes you. I know 'cause I knew you the best. I don't waste many tears on you doing me wrong. It won't do much good now 'cause you're long gone, long gone. Feel the checkerboard floors, this diner on Main Street. Stare at the gray sky outside, thinking of someone I knew I'd meet. She don't look like you love, but she's pretty and she's nice. And I know she won't hurt me like you did, but still something just don't feel right. The city's been talking. Can you see it? Are you watching? Looks like salt on the pavement and mud on your shoes. The wind blows you northwards, the river flows west. You'll follow the current wherever it takes you. I know 'cause I knew you best. But if it starts to move you and take you back home, don't come knocking on my door, 'cause with any luck, love, by then I'll be long gone, long gone.
Really nice. What was that one called?
It's called Long Gone.
Long Gone. Very nice. And I love the way you sing kind of in a deeper register. And is that kind of inspired by any artists, kind of the way Lucius is inspired by like the kind of growly singers?
Thank
Or
you.
is that just the way you like to sing?
I kind of naturally have a deep voice. Yeah, I don't know if it's inspired by anything. Partially, I think when I was first learning to sing, I wasn't very good when I first started, and I always thought when I was younger, like for female singers, that like you couldn't be a good singer if you didn't have like a high voice and you couldn't hit like high notes. So I was really discouraged by that. But then when I sort of found my voice a little bit, it was definitely a lot lower. And I think it might come a little bit from I listened to a lot of male artists when I was younger, and I learned a lot of songs by male artists because it kind of fit in my register. So I guess I just got kind of comfortable with that.
Cool. Yeah,
Yes.
you should never let people like that get you down, because I remember I loved Motley Crue, and I read in the dirt he said people with curly hair can't be rock stars, and that crushed me. But then I looked at Slash and realized he has very curly hair, and
Yeah,
he's a
what?
major rock star. So
Yeah.
I got over that pretty quickly. But don't let him get you down, is what I'm trying to say. But yeah, great voice. So maybe we should get on to, now that you guys have your genres, you figure out what kind of style you like to play. Um, when you realize you can write a song and then you really want to do it a lot more, you kind of get used to a process or a way of doing it. And for some people, it's totally random for every song. Some people, it's the same process for every song. So maybe we'll start again with Ella. How do you usually get into your songs? Does it usually come with the music, a good like a chord progression, or does it come with the lyrics, the melody? How do you get into your songwriting?
I definitely say that my lyrics come first, followed very closely by a melody, and then even closer by music. I definitely think that I write a lot of my songs like at the same time. I have a lot of ideas for lyrics that'll come into my head, and what I usually do is I'll have an idea, like Broken Pieces, like the song I played for you earlier. Broken Pieces was my idea, and I springboarded off of that, and I came up with a story behind it and what it meant. And I definitely start all my songs with a phrase or the hook of the song, the title. Usually I start it with that idea, and then I mold the rest of the song around the hook. Usually, sometimes every once in a while I'll write a song chronologically from the first line of the first verse to the last line of the last chorus. But quite often I start with the chorus and work everything around that, which I feel like that's quite a common way to write a song. But I would definitely say that the thing that gets a song going for me is when I have an idea, when I think broken pieces and I go broken pieces, and then I that's the little melody. So once I have a cute little melody hook and a cool colloquial to go with it, I really like using that and molding my songs around that.
Yeah, it's kind of like a springboard when you got
Yeah,
that thing
exactly.
that's like, that sounds really good. We can fill that out.
Mhm.
Um, Lucius, does that kind of happen to you as well, or do you start like right from the beginning of the song and go to the end, or how does your songs come about?
So I'm kind of a weirdo when it comes to writing music. I've always thought so. I know some people like to start off with like a guitar riff. I know some writers who start off with drums, and that's just really weird. But basically, how I start off, I like to conceptualize various situations and my personal point of view off of those. Because if anything, I find it's way easier to write guitar than it is for me to write lyrics. I'm pretty good at writing melodies nowadays, obviously. Starting off, any beginning musician's not going to be friggin' Elvis Presley. But no, what I do is I like to conceptualize ideas and situations and sort of build a vibe off of that. I try to think of the atmosphere of what the song is that's going to be sounding like. Because my current band right now is sort of like a death metal, deathcore kind of thing. So we deal with a lot of really dark stuff. So in order to get to that sort of vibe, because I don't know if you guys really noticed, I'm not exactly a dark kind of dreary person. I'd like to think of myself pretty happy. Um, but when trying to conceptualize those kinds of ideas, I really need to actually put on an atmosphere, and I need to look through my personal point of view, to see what kind of thing I want to write about at that current time. And then from there, I like to have a guitar riff that I start off of. And then once I have the guitar riff, I'll sort of, uh, depending on what the kind of, like if it's a build up kind of riff, like if I'm writing a riff like a, something like that. That sounds like crap, but I mean, like something like that. Like that sounds like an intro to like you're waiting for something to drop. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
I try to label almost like a spreadsheet. I try to label every single one of my riffs, And with whatever atmosphere that I currently have for that song I have in mind, I write my lyrics and vocal rhythms and melodies based off of that atmosphere that I had originally conceptualized in my strange old man brain of mine. That's basically how I like to write music. I know it's a really weird and not normal way of writing, but I've always found that that has been the easiest way for me because I don't know. I don't like the idea of formulaic, like, write a verse, write a chorus, write a bridge. Like, I don't like that idea of writing. I find it can be really tiring and really robotic after a while. So I like to keep things weird because it keeps it interesting.
Hmm.
That's basically how I write. So if any of you got that, congratulations, because
Well, you're in a death metal band, and I've always wondered what happens if life's going really great for the writer for that band. Like he's in love, got a great job, everything's going great, and he wants to write about rainbows and sunflowers. What happens then?
you
You
get the
can't put
beating
that in a
stick.
death metal.
You beat it out of them. No, I'm joking. No.
Yeah,
No.
make them write sad songs after
No, you see,
the
the
stick.
beauty with something like that, because the main writers of my band are myself, I'm the vocalist, my drummer, Maxime Michaud, and my guitar player, Eric Richard, the brothers. Um, so we understand that we have personalities besides who we are on stage and who we are in the studio and who we are when we write, you know? I'm Lucius Greycliff on the outside, but on the like on the outside on stage, like I look like this angry, like 5'7" little man syndrome kind of dude. But on the inside, I'm a happy little man syndrome dude. It's more or less putting on a mask when you're on stage, and when you're writing, you have to really, that's the whole idea of conceptualizing the whole atmosphere of what you want the song to be. You have to put yourself in someone else's position to get that angry and disgruntled feeling out, so that way you're not angry at the end of the day because you already got that out when you were on stage. You know what I mean?
So you're telling me Gene Simmons actually isn't a demon? Is that what you're telling me
Oh my
right now?
God, Gene Simmons is just an old. Gene Simmons is a boomer. I friggin' hate that guy.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. That's pretty accurate.
Yeah.
Okay, Emily, what's your writing process? Do you do you just jump into the lyrics? Do you jump into the chord progression? Do you do crazy stuff like Lucius?
Well, before I start, I have to say, Lucius, if you ever get tired of music, you can probably go into stand up. But yeah, mine's kind of on a case by case basis. It's a little bit different, but I think I usually start with the lyrics. I'll either start with the lyrics, like a little idea, kind of like Ella said, like it's like a specific line or something, maybe for a chorus or like a hook or something, and then I'll find a chord progression and work from there. Or I'll sometimes, what kind of gets me in the space to write something new is if I'm like, hear a really cool new chord or something like that. And I'm like, whoa, like, obviously not a new chord, but like new to me. And I'm like,
Right.
oh, that sounds cool. I want to throw that in and see what happens. And then it's like, yeah, it usually either starts with the chords or the lyrics.
Cool. So I guess we can do another round of songs if you guys want. So we can do Ella again if you have a song in mind you want to play.
Yeah, I'm kind of going to use what Emily said to introduce my next song. This song is I started it by finding a chord progression that I really liked, and I honestly wrote the song quite backwards from ways that I would normally write songs. I did it all the way from top to bottom, and I didn't really have an idea for it, and I didn't know what it was about until it was done. And it was just the chord progression that really strung it along. And kind of what Lucia said before, it almost seemed nonsensical to me at the time. I didn't know what I was writing about. The words were just flowing out on the page, and it was one of those euphoric moments, like Lucia said, where I didn't know what was happening, but I knew I liked it. So this is it's the most recent song that I wrote, and it's probably my favorite, and I really hope that you like it. It's called Subtly Sad. Crystal clear puddles left from the rain. Reflections show the faces you fear. Your cold, wet hands always feel the same. my cheek, wiping my tears away. It's like taking the same route each day, comfortable but sadly sad. No way around, just avoiding the pain, 'cause then that would be my bad. I always get tongue-tied at the part I'm supposed to speak. Could you read my mind? Yeah. Is that too much to expect from someone so close to me? Oh, you think you know me so well, then how do you explain why I felt? And I don't know how to ask again. You haven't heard me since I don't know when. Oh, oh, dusty footprints blown away. Prove me wrong, I beg of you. Blank page, I invite you to stay, and we can make something brand new. Brand new. Oh, but you think you know me so well, then how do you explain why I fell? And I don't know how to ask again. You haven't heard me since I don't know when. Oh, and we can make something brand new.
Great track, Ella. Really nice. And that one was brand new, you said?
Yeah, well, it's called Subtly Sad, but it is a brand new song.
Yeah. That's the one thing about songwriting I'm sure happens. You can write a really great song or a bunch of songs and maybe be like, oh my God, can I write better than that? Am I out of songs? Like, like what if I can't keep going after this really great track? But then you come up with another great track and it's like, no, still got it. So I'm sure that happens a lot. I think I should make an announcement to all the viewers out there. If you guys want to post any questions for our artist tonight, feel free to. Alex Lee actually has one. And he asks, he's curious if you folks feel like your stories, messages, words develop as you write the song, or if you have the ideas kind of planned out ahead of time. Maybe we can start with Ella since you're right there.
That's a really tough one. I'd say, like Emily said before, it's kind of a case by case, but I would definitely say that no matter how you intend to write a song, no matter how you start it, no matter how you finish it, I feel like it's never what you expected it to be, and it always changes just a little bit more than you wanted it. Like it's never the song you thought it would be, and it's not a bad thing. It's just everything, it always changes in the midst of writing it for me anyways, it tweaks itself a little bit, so the idea you had for it may come across a little bit differently. So I'd say that I may have an idea for it in the beginning, but then at the end I realize what it's really about and what I was really trying to convey in song there. So I'd say that I have an idea at the beginning and it always stays somewhat relative to that idea, but it does tend to branch off after you've written the song and after you've played it enough to really know what it's about and get to know the song.
Yeah, definitely. How about you, Emily?
Yeah, I think I agree with what Ella said. It depends on Depends on the song, but for me, I think it definitely develops as you write it. Like you start off with an idea and a lot of the time it completely changes into something different, or maybe like Lucia said, it's completely nonsensical in your mind as you're writing it, but then when it's done you're like, "Oh, like I think I was writing that about like," or kind of pulling from something in your life that's happening and you're like, "Okay." Like even if the song is like totally made up, like a random story or something, for me it's like it usually at least the emotion within the song is kind of tied to something that I'm feeling or going through. So yeah, I think it kind of comes together as you go, and it's pretty rare that it ends up being exactly what you planned it to be or expected it to be. But I think that's kind of a good thing.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm sure everybody takes a little piece of one line that you might see differently and they'll see in a totally different way. And I guess, Lucius, maybe that's your plan all along for your songwriting. Or do you ever have at least even just one line that's very intentional?
Yeah. So honestly, I definitely with what Alex said, where how eventually, while writing through a song, it'll change meaning or something like that. I remember an exact example. It's not actually available to listen to, but one of my old bands that I used to play with, we were called Jura. We had this song that we loved playing. It was called Nile, and I was writing the lyrics for it, and I remembered thinking originally that the song was going to be about how it's in human nature's DNA to fail and to do what's not good for us because we want instant gratification. And then I remember I added the final line of lyrics and it turned into a song about friggin' Dark Souls, and I'm not even joking. Like the whole song completely changed meaning, and it was like this weird like narration of like what was going on in that universe. So yeah, I know that's super friggin' weird and out there, but yeah, no, like that's happened to me a few times. Like I'll be nearly finished writing the lyrics for a song, or I'll be nearly finished writing the instrumental portion to said song, and all of a sudden it'll totally completely change the original meaning that I had for it, and it'll uh, that's the long and short of it. I don't really know how to go from there on that because my brain doesn't like to work. Um, but yeah, no, that's basically I've experienced exactly what Alex asked about, definitely multiple times too, and it's always so interesting when it happens because as Ella was saying, when you write a song, you don't it never really works up to what you actually thought it was going to be in the end. It always ends up
Hmm.
changing in some way that it's almost daunting, but in a good way. You know what I mean?
Definitely. Jen Houston asks, what can you write about next? That's a very vague and open-ended question. I like it. Can go anywhere with that one. But do you guys have any kind of ideas of where you want your songwriting to go? Do you want to expand the rhymes, expand the metaphors, expand the love songs? What kind of songs are you guys kind of hoping to write in the future? Um, Lucius.
So, I love writing about. Obviously, with death metal, you're gonna write about some pretty gnarly things. But with my band, we don't go for like classic, like disgusting, like just to be disgusting kind of death metal. We write a lot on socio-political problems that have been going on, and I've really been super interested in the Black Lives Matter movement, and I love writing about it because I'm incredibly passionate when it comes to that. I'm a huge advocate for them. I totally believe in what they have to say and what they're doing. More power to them, honestly. And I love writing about socio-political stuff because obviously you'll see bands like Rage Against the Machine where they've made their whole career based off of political stuff, making banter off of any hard right wing or any hard left wing kind of thing. Um, with me, I just love the idea of being able to possibly change the way somebody sees something through a certain line in a certain song. You know what I mean? And although it's controversial, I think that that's good because it gets people to want to listen. You know what I mean? Goes back to
Hmm.
that whole YouTube clickbait thing. You know what I mean? Oh my God, I got a mystery box off the dark web for $5,000, and you wouldn't believe what's inside, or stuff like that. It's almost like it's its own version of clickbait, but it actually means something, and it's not just to get views. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
I definitely feel like speaking over controversial topics like the Black Lives Matter movement is incredibly important in this time because it's in the now. It's happening as we speak. So it really matters that your average person talks about it, even in their music and their poetry and their writing and anything. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Ella, do you have any kind of ideas what's next for your songwriting, or does it kind of just come out of the blue?
I feel like all of my songs stem from places where I am in my life, so I guess we'll see what the future holds. Because I don't know what's going to happen yet, and I don't think my songs do either. So I think that's probably where I'm headed. I really like having lyrically complicated songs where people really have to think about what I'm saying. I really like that because it pulls people in more and they want to know more about it. And when it's confusing like that at first, the first time you hear it, there's more places to plug in your own meaning. I think Lucius was mentioning something about that before. So I really like lyrics that make you think, and then the lyrics that are specifically worded so that they can mean a wide range of things, but they mean something specific to you. I like that idea of having a hidden message within your lyrics. So I think that's where I will be going with my music.
Yeah, yeah, it's always awesome to really relate to another person's song and their
Mhm.
words. And sometimes it's like, are you writing a song about me? How you know about my life?
Yeah,
How'd you get all
yep.
this? But it's crazy how songs do that, and it's really cool if you can write a song and get people to feel those emotions that way just through melody and words. It's quite an amazing thing. Emily, do you have any future idea of where your songwriting is going to go?
I'd say mine's kind of a mix because, like Ella, I definitely write from more personal experience and things that are happening in my life, or like people around me. But I also would love to be able to get into writing about more political or social issues, like Lucius was saying. I find it kind of daunting to do that sometimes, but I think it's really important to be able to speak out about things like that, like Black Lives Matter, and topics like that. So yeah, I'd like to get into writing stuff about that or stuff that even like Ella was saying, kind of a mix of that, something that says something and you first hear it and you don't really realize, but it has kind of a deeper meaning behind it. I really like that. And then just in terms of lyrics, I definitely want to get into more not just complicated lyrics, but sort of painting a picture with it. You know what I mean? Like, when you listen to a specific song and it's like you feel like you're like in the actual setting that the person is
Hmm.
singing about. I kind of want to be able to do stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah, it's always nice to have a visual when you're listening to something. If you close your eyes and you could, like, they're describing it so well. It's quite an experience, actually. So, yeah, that's definitely a really cool goal to have in your songwriting. We're getting down to about 7 minutes, so we probably have time for a song from each of you guys. Maybe Emily, we can have you play one more track and do a little
Sure.
instrument switch.
Sorry, yeah, I was like, we got one more.
That's okay.
I brought another guitar because the most recent song I've written is in a different tuning, which I've never written a song in a different tuning before. I don't even know what the
Cool.
tuning is called. That's how unexperienced I am. Um, but yeah, this is kind of an example of how certain chords or like voicings of chords kind of hit you and make you want to write something specific. But yeah, it's pretty new, so hopefully I'll remember all my own lyrics. It's called If You're Gonna Leave. I don't know if you're truthful, baby, but I know that you're not one
just go digging through my mind. Can't say you love me and I don't kiss you in your neighborhood. Wouldn't wanna take you by surprise. I can't lie to you. I don't want someone new, and I won't go. But if you're in love with me, you really better speak. I need to know. She just says, if you're gonna leave me, baby, you better go angry. You can be sure I'm gonna leave a few scars. She said, if you're gonna walk away, then you're gonna go hungry. You're gonna be starving for a piece of my heart. If you're gonna leave, I'll make sure you don't get too far. I try to dodge your fire, but we both know I ain't that agile, so I'll just shut my mouth. Can't make you lay your claim. I know that you just call me fragile and blame it on my doubts. Well, I can't lie to you. I don't want someone new, and I won't go. But if you're in love with me, you really better speak. I need to know. She just says, if you're gonna leave me, baby, you better go angry. 'Cause you can be sure I'm gonna leave a few scars. If you're gonna walk away, then you're gonna go hungry. You're gonna be starving for a piece of my heart. She said, if you're gonna leave, we both know you won't get too far.
Very cool song, and in a very strange tuning, with a capo, with
Yeah.
very minimal chords, but making so much sound with those, or minimal fingers, I should say, just 2 fingers. It looked like for almost every
Yeah.
chord. How did you find out about that kind of tuning? And way to
Um,
go!
well, I was originally I learned the tuning because I was playing a Bon Iver song called "The Wolves," and it had this tuning, and it was like so strange, and the chords were like only like 1 or 2 fingers, but I thought it sounded like so cool and
Hmm.
just really different. So then I was like, all right, I'll kind of play around with some of those chords and see how it sounds. And I was like, whoa, this sounds super different, and I liked it because I was kind of getting a little bit stuck with the same sort of chords, chord voicings and progressions and stuff. So yeah, I put the capo on it because when I originally learned the song, it was in this tuning, but it was way too low for me, so I slapped a capo on there. So it's a really weird way that I'm playing it, but yeah.
Yeah, very cool.
Thanks.
So it looks like we're winding down on time, but we've had an amazing discussion tonight, I think, on songwriting and where ideas come from and how it all happens, because songwriting is a very special thing, in my opinion, and it's very, sometimes it seems very common, but it's actually very, very rare to find a really good songwriter, and OMCI is just absolutely jam-packed full of amazing songwriters. I'm absolutely stunned every time I see a live stream. And it was so cool to talk to you guys to get to dig a little deeper into your musical brains. I dabble in songwriting myself. I'll try to, like Lucius talked about earlier. I'll use that technique and see what happens. But I want to thank our musicians, Lucius Graycliffe, Emily Gilbart, and Ella Baker. It was awesome talking with you guys. This has been OMCI's Writers Night. I'm Braden Folks. Have a good night, everybody.